All right.
Something's got to come out of us. It has to.
Someone is.
Someone is. We're starting in. You walk us in. Walk us in.
All right. Hey guys, it's Thursday. Once again, I'm sick.
Oh,
I'm Anthony. This is Jared. You can introduce yourself if you want to.
no.
Okay. And welcome to what's our podcast name again?
Hoosier.
Hoosier Main. Welcome to
Main.
Hoosier Main. Yeah, we just got done recording a little side quest about the Switch 2, and we're jacked up, man.
We're jacked up for old classic games that are coming on to the GameCube stuff. Old
Dude.
GameCube stuff coming back. I mean, think about Soul Calibur 2, man. I mean, what a classic.
What an incredible game. I mean, that game shaped our childhood. Yeah, I mean, literally. That was many hours spent playing together, and whether with your friends or your brothers and stuff like that. Man, I love that game.
You know, the name of this podcast, Hoosier Main. Who was your main in Soul Calibur 2?
My main was a very serious, a very stoic warrior named Yoshimitsu.
I see not much change. See, folks, he and I were like passing ships when we were young, so I didn't really get to play these kind of games with him. He played with my brother, who I also played with. So there was that my brother, we talk about him all the time, Bryce. Yeah. Me and Bryce used to sit in the basement with Soul Calibur 2 and go 20 to 20, 40 rounds, 20 to 20. My mom's yelling down the stairs, it's time for dinner. Yeah. I played Nightmare. I'd kick your ass.
Do you want to explain why you played Nightmare?
Yeah, he had long hair and a giant fucking sword.
Exactly. That's exactly it right there. Any game that has giant sword, long hair, go ahead, sign him up. I remember the first time I played you guys, this is kind of like a Smash Bros moment, something like that, or I guess a Budokai moment in my realm. I remember, you kind of hear the murmurs, the whispers. These guys are pretty good at this game. It's like, yeah, all right, whatever. I've heard that before. And then you sit down and you start playing. It's like, you do, it's literally the meme of you have to lean forward in your seat because it's like, holy shit. Okay, here we go. We're playing for real. I remember that moment distinctly at your house, sitting down in the basement on your couch, just like leaning forward and being like, okay, these guys are serious. I need to pick up my game.
Me and Bryce would lock the fuck in. Those were our king days of playing fighting games. And it would all happen. This is the topic of the episode. We're going to talk about GameCube specifically for the rest of this episode. If you had a GameCube, it was a great system. But freaking Soul Calibur 2, man. The reason that we even picked this game up, it was actually because of the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast had just died, but a lot of its games and flagships flew over to the GameCube. And Soul Calibur 2 flew over here. And I played Soul Calibur 1 on the Dreamcast when we borrowed it from a group of friends when they were borrowing our system. And I would have never played a fighting game like that. I'd never seen a fighting game that was like in 3 dimensions that moved, that you could circle each other. It was insane. An insane fighting game. They were all side scrollers up until then. Or at least for me.
This game was actually one of the reasons. Now, granted, I didn't play it on the GameCube. I played it on the Wii. The Wii was backwards compatible with GameCube games. This is one of the games that sold me on the console. I originally played Soul Calibur 2 on the PlayStation 2, and I remember playing it on GameCube. The controls were just so much tighter. The frame rate was a little bit tighter. I don't remember if the PlayStation 2 was weaker graphically necessarily. I think it was just like you said. It was the experience of it. Having that different controller felt cool. It felt like you were immersed in this fighting game. Yeah, I agree. I put hundreds of hours into that game, and then obviously Soul Calibur 3 again when that game came out. But I that was a PlayStation 2 game as well for me.
Here's a little call to action for everybody. Who is your main? Hit us with who your mains were in the games that we're talking about today. Soul Calibur 2, you heard ours. He was Yoshimitsu. I was Nightmare. This is before we kind of developed our 3-man strat that we developed later in Soul Calibur 6, and how we think about fighting games now versus how we thought about them as kids is like you had a main and you locked in on him. You didn't play anybody else. If you had a side guy, you were sandbagging son of a bitch. I tried to play Link against Bryce in a tournament because I was like having an off day, And granted, fighting him back then was if you had an off day, you could not win. I was the same way. If he had an off day, he could not beat me. But that was just between the two of us. I don't know how all that else would have worked out, but I don't know, man. I played Link and he whooped the fuck out of me, and I was like, man, I know I could beat him as Link. I know I can. Everybody's like, sure, you look like shit, and I was like, oh fuck. That man, if you played fighting games in a group like that too, like there was like a hierarchy, and you were trying to punch your way up to the top.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree 100%. And there's kind of two rants that I want to go on here about what you just said. But the first of them is that idea of trying to play a character that maybe you're not necessarily good with, but you associate with. So maybe you haven't put the time in, or maybe just the fighting style doesn't suit what you want to be doing. It's so different from what you're used to, but the character is so iconic or cool or whatever it may be that you want to play that character. And then just kind of almost the disappointment of taking that character into a tournament or your group of friends or whatever, and then just getting absolutely smashed. That was always a defeating feeling. But you're right. The other thing I wanted to mention was there was absolutely a hierarchy when playing those games. You always wanted to go one tier up. Jumping to the top of the pile, that was almost impossible. You would never do that in a single tournament. But if you could punch up one time, oh my gosh, you'd be walking around like the coolest guy in the room, head held high. Yeah, I lost, but I lost to the champion. And I can sit there and very proudly say I got third place and not feel bad about it at all. I'm a very firm believer in perfect practice, and practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And that whole idea of learn from your mistakes, learn from your defeats. I loved that, man. Yeah, that's just something that I don't think you could ever replicate again.
You're getting a little bit of how he and I practice these kind of games. He goes in and practices heavily. I go in, I get the base controls, I fight the thing, and then I have to go fight human opponents. It's the only way I can get better is if I fight a human opponent, because I find the predictability of the CPU too easy to figure out and then not be challenged by anymore. I need that human opponent that can outthink me and outmaneuver me to push me up one. So I always wanted to come after the top dog. I wanted to go after the straight to the top, because if I could land one hit on him, or I could knock him off one time, or I could do that one thing that was the victory, like you were saying, that was it. I got it, Yeah. I got a little better from that. And I wouldn't be discouraged by that then. I don't know what I would be now. Probably to feel, I fucking got beat. I quit forever.
I know we've talked about this before, but I mean, good jokes come in threes, so I'll talk about it again. They're the mind, body, soul of those old Bruce Lee movies and stuff like that. I'm very, very perfectly happy being in my box. If the mind character is somebody who studies the metadata and the tier lists, and I want to know all of the frame data and all of that stuff. I don't think anybody in our friend group was that. I was the body. I was the person who would get into the practice mode, and I would spend hours practicing combos, and if they do this, I'm going to do that, and just honing my craft that way. I think what you and your brother did better than anybody else, you were the soul, the spirit. You found it in the moment. I always say, we'll find it when we do it. You guys embody that 100%. Where, like you said, I'm going to sit down next to this person. I'm going to feed off of the hype, and I'm going to rise above the challenge, and I'm just going to beat their ass. I don't care who they are. I don't care what character they pick. I'm picking my guy, and I'm going to whoop their ass.
The only HP point that matters is the fucking last one.
That's right, the Capri Sun.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, that Capri Sun stuff. So folks at home, the Capri Sun thing actually started with Soul Calibur for us, but it was in Soul Calibur 6. Mm-hmm. And so a Capri Sun comes with a little orange straw, and you have this little orange straw of health left, and that is the most dangerous person that you're fighting. If they have that, they've got that one tick. You better lock in, because they're ultra locked, and that's when you would get totally fucked. Every time. It's like, no,
Oh
the
my
Capri
God.
Sun, no.
I'm telling you, man. Once we started pointing it out, it was every time it happened, man. It was like everybody knew, okay, this guy's backed into the corner. If he's going to do something, it's going to be right now. And you would just see the absolute best in all of us.
The
It was
fucking
amazing.
momentum shift because you have 1 HP.
Yeah.
I'll kill you.
Yeah.
Ah!
It was the Dragon Ball Z moment, you know. It's like finding Super Saiyan in the heat of battle, where you're just like, this is to go even further beyond.
But I have such fond memories of Soul Calibur 2. One of my favorite things you could do is you could press a button in like right before the match starts. The characters like swing in and they're facing each other, and if you pressed a button, they would say something. And I always pressed the same button on Nightmare. I always pressed, I think it was the X button, and he would say the end. I remember that.
I think everybody had these rituals that they would do. Like you said, you would never sandbag against an opponent. You always wanted to be respectful and play. Maybe you wouldn't try to like stomp them into the dirt, but you would certainly try to be respectful. And I think my way of doing that was, if I was being serious, I would pick a certain palette color for my character. And if I was kind of just going easy on you, well, I've just got my training gi on and I'm not going to go 100% in this
I was
fight.
getting ready to bring that up because that's the exact thing I was going to talk about next was, I was going to ask you if you had a color. Did you have a color?
I absolutely did. Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yes, the green. I believe in Soul Calibur 2, Yoshimitsu had a green outfit, and I picked that when I was locked in and serious. He had a green outfit that I would pick.
I don't think I started that ritual until I started playing Melee really heavily.
Yeah,
because there was 2 costumes on Nightmare that I really liked. I liked just his standard armored costume with the red hair. I thought that red hair looked sick as fuck. The other one was armorless, where his like fucking gnarly arm is out and he's got his blonde hair. And oh man, the best iteration of Nightmare's moves is in Soul Calibur 2. In 3, they split Nightmare into 2 characters, and they split his move set. And Nightmare mains out there everywhere cried with me in Soul Calibur 3 because I no longer was a relevant fighter. My brother was beating the piss out of me with Mitsurugi, which we didn't say his main, Mitsurugi. He was an unstoppable Mitsurugi in Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody flow through a character the way that he did. If you were raw power and I was kind of that pestering opponent, he was the flow state where he would start attacking you and you would be like, is it my turn yet? Can I go? And no, you cannot.
Nothing feels better than that in a fighting game too. Getting on a run.
Absolutely.
And he would get on those runs in Soul Calibur 2. It was just like unbelievable. And I just wonder how many people at home are sitting here thinking, man, it does feel good to do that. I remember.
I remember. Yeah, oh my gosh, the voice lines are burned in my brain from that game.
So many good voice lines in Soul Calibur 2. Soul Calibur 2 is still, I think it's one of the best Soul Caliburs that they made. They tried to make a Soul Calibur 2 with 3 and 4 and 5. I don't think it got good again until 6, and I feel really bad that 6, it feels like a distant memory for maybe us and probably many other people. I still am hoping for a Soul Calibur 7 because I just love that game. I just think that I would keep buying every iteration of that game and all the DLC characters they make because, fuck, man, it's just a fun fighting game. It's so good.
Absolutely. And it's so hard to replicate that. It's hard to find that same style and that same feeling. And you said Soul Calibur 6 was kind of a afterthought for the developer and the producer, where they were like, we didn't even know if anybody wanted this. And it was like, yes, please, we'll take more, keep giving us more, you know. And it's like, gosh dang, I just want. I understand fighting games are kind of a niche, however you say that word, a niche game genre, and it's dominated by Mortal Kombat and Soul Calibur or Street Fighter. I understand that, but man, Soul Calibur, I feel like you said, it's always been there. It's always been a consistent part of gaming history. And when it's not there, there's just a huge void that can't be replaced.
They may be. I feel like Tekken kind of does the 3D Arena Fighter Don't they do that? It's been a while since I played Tekken.
They do. I am on the same boat as you. I kind of stopped playing after the PlayStation 2 era. I believe you're right. I think they actually just released a new Soul Calibur, or their end of life of a Tekken. Excuse me, 8. I want to say. Which, by the way, Yoshimitsu is also in those games as well.
Wonderful. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get it. I'll play. I'm not scared.
The next game I want to talk about from the GameCube era, which I wonder if we'll see, can they release it? Super Smash Bros. Melee. Will they put it on the Virtual Console?
That'd be insane to have Melee and Ultimate on the same console. Well, if they have Ultimate.
Yeah, well, you'll still be able to play Ultimate on the Switch 2. It's just I don't think they'll do a Switch 2 version. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's still backwards compatible. But imagine getting Melee. I mean, did you play? Okay, so me and my brothers loved Super Smash Brothers. We smashed each other when we played that game because we were beating the shit out of each other when somebody won. But when Melee came out and it had the extra characters and the sharp graphics and the snappy play style, I mean, it was an incredible fighting game. I had never played a fighting game like that where I could just pick up the controller and start working it. It used to be like
I agree.
Street Fighter, like you had to train, like you had to memorize those button presses, and it just didn't feel like I was fighting. I always felt like a fighting game should feel very intuitive because to punch is a natural thing to be able to do. Punch well, of course, that's arguable, but man, Melee just felt incredible. Who's your main?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, so in Melee, my main kind of shifted. I originally was a Dr. Mario main, and I stayed on him for a very long time. And then I kind of jokingly discovered 2 characters who I still play to this day. One of them is Dr. Mario, and then was Mr. Game & Watch in that one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that was the first time. This is when this idea started percolating in my brain of, if I can't be better than you, I'm going to be different. I've said this before. And so I chose Mr. Game & Watch, who is this amorphous blob who attacks you so weakly and so unassumingly. And then he pulls out this hammer that does random damage 1 to 9. And you can one-hit KO, essentially, if you roll a 9. And I fell in love with that. I'll take the boon. You know what I mean? That's my character. I'll take the boon. I fell in love with that character instantly. Obviously, Dr. Mario has kind of been shelved a little bit. Like I said, eventually I picked up Wii Fit Trainer. That was not in that game. The Wii hadn't come out yet. But man, Mr. Game & Watch, I loved that character. He was so fun. It's kind of like what you were talking about before, where a punch needs to feel good. I need to associate with the character that I'm playing, right? And if I'm going to play as this weird character, well, what better than somebody who, like, I can dodge your attacks by holding down. Are you kidding me? I can become so small that I can dodge your attacks. Oh man. The first time I did that, I was like, yes, I'll be this character forever.
For me, I was coming from obviously Super Smash Brothers. I liked to play Link because I still was a pretty heavy Link fan, Zelda fan, and I was also the Pokemon guy. So I played Pikachu in Super Smash Brothers, and I didn't feel. Bryce was always beating the piss out of me with Fox. I just didn't have a character that I could latch onto. And then I was over at my friend John's house, and he had unlocked both Marth and Roy. And he was beating my ass with Marth. And I was like, well, if he's Marth, then I'll try out this Roy guy. He's pretty cool. He pounded me for probably like 2 hours, and he was like, I'm done. I go, sit your ass down. I'm still playing. And he was like, I'm just going to win again. I go, I don't care. He beat me some more until it was time for me to leave. I went home, and I don't remember how I figured out how to unlock Roy, but I got him unlocked. And the next time I saw John, I just was beating his ass because then I had played against Bryce a whole bunch, and then that's when I really locked in on Roy for me. I love those kind of stories though, where like what led you to that main? Was it the design of the character? Was it the feel? I just was really drawn to the feel of Roy in Melee. I didn't know how to do that wave dash stuff. That stuff was pretty high level. That tech really was only seen in the actual tournament setting. We were just some small town boys playing against each other. So really, it was just like we were probably right under that tournament level of play. If we'd gone to a tournament, we probably would have got our butts handed to us and be like, "Oh, did you see that weird move they were doing? They called it a wave dash."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat with you where I would love to be the kind of Mr. Game & Watch player that does all those cool combos and all of that stuff. I can't, I can't get myself back to that place anymore. You're exactly right. None of us were kind of on that stage. The best example that I can give, I kind of thought about this when we talked about it before, but I think a lot of our friend group, we're kind of in that like walk-on college sports player. Where we're absolutely better than the average person. We're above and beyond the average person. But the gap between the average person and a Division I college sports player is so vast. We look like we are amateurs when we play against them. And then again, there's another gap between a college player and a professional player. I think that translates to video games as well, where we were right on that cusp of being kind of a Division I college player at that talent level. When we were on, we were absolutely there. When we were off, we were definitely off. But then when you see the difference between us and a professional player, the vast gap between us, yeah, it's incredibly intimidating. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I could practice forever and I'd never get there. And that's true. Sometimes some people are just naturally better than you.
I still would want to fight them. I remember when I got Brawl for my 3DS and I was playing online a bunch, there was this guy playing a Rosalina and just beating the shit out of me. And I just kept rematching him. And I didn't have Roy then, okay? I had a different main in... We'll talk about Brawl and Ultimate Hero for a little bit because you wanted to talk about your main and how you came across them, which I'm interested in. I was playing Ganondorf, and I kind of figured out a couple moves to combo together, but this Rosalina was just pounding the fuck out of me, and I finally I got him one, And so I rematched him again, and I was like, I think I'm starting to figure out their flow, and they picked Ganondorf, and then just beat the shit piss out of me, and then rematched me one more time, and then beat the shit piss out of me as Rosalina again, and then quit. And I was like, you son of a bitch! Come back here! I'm not finished with you! Damn!
Yeah, that's to me the thing that I admire and absolutely respect out of you and your brothers is you can beat me once, you can beat me twice, you can beat me 3 times, you can beat me 15 or 14 times, but that 16th time when I get the win, oh buddy, I've got you now. You know what I mean? Like all you got to do is get that one win, and it's like it was worth it. Getting my ass kicked all those times was worth it, and I definitely learned that from you guys. That idea of that I guess you can call it resilience or whatever, but that will to win. That's definitely something that I admire about playing with you guys.
So we were talking a little bit about we can talk about the Wii and the Wii U and the build up and how you switched your main here. I kind of went through, just like in Soul Calibur, I kind of went through a identity crisis with Hoosier Main. I think this is really what probably you had the same thing where your main was removed and then you had to pick another one, and that's what made us get better at overall, because we had to basically we had to hold interviews with new mains to figure out who it was. Well, I locked in on Lucas in Brawl. A completely different play style to Roy. And I got really good with him. I mean, I could do the stuff that I think you described when you were playing with your other buddies, where I could chase people off the edge and fight down below and down spike people and come back from almost anything, dodge most attacks. And it was really well practiced then. And then when the next game came out, they didn't have Lucas or Roy. So that's why I ended up on Ganondorf, but it wasn't a very good Ganondorf. So they finally re-added Roy and re-added Lucas, and I was just devastated. And they kind of changed their play styles slightly. It's very, very minor But when you're so practiced with a certain character in a fighting game like this, when they make a slight balance adjustment to a character, it can devastate your whole state.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that earlier about flowing through a character and knowing exactly what moves lead into other ones. When they break that chain, when they break that feeling, it's devastating. It really does make you feel like you've lost the character. And like you said, you kind of have to have open tryouts. And it's just like, all right, who's the next man up? And I did the same.
Everybody lock in.
Everybody lock in. We got to figure this out. And I was right there. They cut my main in Brawl as well. And I think Brawl was the first time I realized I could really define what it is that I like in a character. I love stance characters. I love a character who maybe they're not the best at a thing, but they can get into a stance and all of a sudden they're better than they were at that thing. Wii Fit Trainer, being able to get into those different poses, and all of a sudden I can fight right in your face, or I can get into a different pose, and now I can zone you out, and I can fight at range. Oh man, I loved that. I was so enthralled with that fighting style. And granted, I wasn't very, like you said, I very quickly switched back as soon as my main came back. But yeah, I was kind of holding open tryouts there for a little while.
It always feels really weird in a fighting game. We've spent a lot of time here talking about these two games. I still want to talk about more of the GameCube games. Did you play Double Dash?
I did, yeah.
Mario Kart?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I retroactively played a lot of GameCube games because my sister got one. I think she got it for like Christmas or something like that. And that was kind of her first system. And so I did. She picked that game up and I played it with her, and it was surprisingly fun. I thought the addition of the second character, so you could kind of stash your power up items, I thought that was a cool idea. The Mario Kart games are always kind of in that range of good to really good, and so I don't think they could make a bad Mario Kart game. I had a ton of fun playing it.
We had a lot of tournaments around that game too. You got to bring the blue sparks. I remember. Who was your main in Mario Kart?
I don't remember. I think it might have been Boo. Did they have Boo in that game?
You know what? I don't remember.
Because you had to have your team up partner, right?
Let's look it up.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
I'm doing a little. Internet googling.
Chat amongst yourselves there, chat.
Come on, we're not even live.
Oh, okay, my fault.
Well, I can tell you. King Boo was in that.
Okay, yeah,
King Boo.
I almost always pick him.
At least this is what it says.
If he's an option, I almost always pick him.
You always pick Boo? How dare you? That's who I want to pick usually, but never do because I was locked. I was loyal to Daisy from my Mario Tennis days when we were playing that on the 64. I was like, I guess I got to play Daisy, but you could do this really annoying thing in Double Dash where you could switch who's driving the cart, and the characters would say stuff, and Daisy had this really annoying voice line, "Hi, I'm Daisy." So I would just like click that constantly when I was racing against somebody to try to fucking get into their head, you know. Will you fucking stop doing that? No,
I won't.
No, that's a big part that you don't get on the online stuff anymore, because me and my brothers always were shoulder to shoulder when we were playing fighting games, is that fucking in-person morale boost or loss from them taunting you in real life.
Yeah, yep, I agree. That's a huge part of it. The mind games, the psyche of it all. Yeah, I agree.
You could start trash talking them and get into their head and break them down so you could beat their ass. I mean, we did that all the time. Just say anything to you can get them. Oh, you missed that attack, you know. Whoa, you can't dodge that?
Yeah.
You've always been able to dodge that. They're like, fuck off.
We tech
try
those.
To come after you.
We tech those. Yeah, the trash talking is a lost art, I think.
Well, now it's all this text. You know, we're talking about Overwatch. We would get so mad. Oh boy, I'm not bringing that mood up.
Bring that up. Bring the mood down. Come on.
No. Just go back to the episode where we talk about FPS games. You get to the bottom of that episode, top whatever.
I'll jump in real quick and add a game that maybe is a lesser known title. I don't know. Billy Hatcher and the something egg. You know, the egg game. Did you play that?
No, but I've read about it. The Billy Hatcher game.
I'm gonna look up and see Billy Hatcher and the giant egg is what it was called. I remember playing that game, And I don't think it was necessarily like amazing or anything like that, but I just remember it being kind of Nintendo adjacent. And it was just cool enough that I was like, "Oh, that's kind of fun." And I would more often than not watch my sister play it. But yeah, that was a really fun game. I don't necessarily think that it was like a game changer, like go out and buy it now, but yeah, that was a fun one I remember.
Man, I feel like I watched a video on that game a while back, and it probably could have made a spot in our. I don't even know actually. I don't remember what that game was trying to be like. I remember very briefly maybe Raymond. I don't think so. This was a Sonic Team game.
Yeah, you rolled the giant eggs around and you had to try to get them to hatch, and then once they hatched, you got like a really cool partner. It was such a weird game. It's hard to explain if you've never played it. Where you basically spend like the best way to describe this. This is going to sound so weird. It's a 3D, almost like Mario and Yoshi game, except for it's obviously not named Mario and Yoshi. And you would just roll these giant eggs around and try to get them to hatch. And then once they did, you got that boon, whether it was like I can fly or I've got a guy who can beat people up or whatever it may be.
Now, of course, if we talk about the GameCube, we should briefly talk about Super Mario Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
I just recently read a thing about how they wish they hadn't have made it so hard. Mario should be a game that even, your grandma or your 4-year-old should be able to pick up and have a good time with. And they purposely made this game difficult. If you haven't played it and you want a difficult 3D Mario game, this is your game. Visually, it was stunning game. The atmosphere that this game brought in was wonderful. I'll never forget some of the feelings I had playing this game. It was so fun. And Yoshi's in it. You can ride Yoshi around. You can make him eat fruits, and then he does this throw up thing where he squirts the juice out of his mouth. It's really funny. I don't know. Did you ever play it?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, it's probably my favorite Mario game of all time outside of Mario 64. I loved it. I thought it was really fun. Like, I can understand the criticism of it being too hard. I think if you weren't a proficient gamer already, that would be a horrible game to start on. But I had a ton of fun playing it, and it's one of the most memorable Mario games ever. I think maybe if you could have changed it. I know they later did the Luigi's Mansion series of games. If you could have made that game a Luigi game, I think that would have made it more palatable, maybe that it was hard, if that makes sense. Because I think it's what you were saying. You associate Mario with fun, easy games that it's like, we're going to win. It's not about winning or losing. It's about having a good time. I don't know. Maybe you could have done something with that, had a different lead character. I think that would have maybe lost a little bit of luster with the personality of the game, but I was fine with it being hard. I don't know.
I mean, many of us were coming from playing Mario 64, and so the skill sets were still there in us to play this game. I'm pretty sure they had removed the long jump, though, in this game, which is one of the reasons why it was so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Of course, you can't talk about the GameCube without talking about Metroid Prime, which Prime 4 was recently announced. Finally, many years, us Prime fans have been sitting and waiting. Talk about another atmospheric game. Something about that time period in the way that they would make these immersive atmospheres in games. But Prime really sucks you in, man. Turn the lights down, crank the volume up, or if you could put on headphones to play. I mean, just get lost in this game. It's wonderful. Wonderful game. Not that difficult. It's not massive keyboard. It's controller driven, but it had a lock-on system. But my favorite aspect wasn't actually the combat or the exploration. It was the silly little scan function.
Oh, yeah.
That just brought tons and tons of lore to the Metroid universe, where you could just stop and read about something. Like, what is that? And then you scan it, and then it tells you all about it. And you're like, cool.
I forgot about that. That's right. That game did have that. Yeah, obviously I'm not a very big first-person shooter aficionado or anything like that, but I thought the HUD of that game was incredible. It made you feel like you were wearing the suit. It made you feel like you were Samus Aran. That's a big part of the game. If you're going to make a game first-person, you have to care about the character that you're portraying, and they did a great job of doing that. Spoilers, by the way. The main character is Samus. She's a girl.
Wait, Samus is a girl?
Yep. Sorry.
I'm just kidding. I knew that. The second one was on the GameCube. It's more of the greatness. Really interesting remake that ended up on the GameCube was Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. Did you play the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes game?
I did, and actually, that was kind of the reintroduction of that game series to me. And oh man, I know we kind of hem and haw about whether a game needs a remaster or whatever you want to call that, a remake, whatever. I loved it. I thought it was incredibly good. It was kind of in that adjacent line of Resident Evil getting a remake, kind of, where they increased the graphics just a little bit. To me, that's just enough to be like, oh, wow, that was a game series that I kind of glossed over, but seeing that it's available now, I'll pick it up and play it. And oh, man, I loved it. Twin Snakes, I think, gets overlooked. Well, I guess I should say Metal Gear Solid 2 gets overlooked, kind of labeled as a bad game. It is absolutely not a bad game. It's incredible.
I would hope now, if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan, that you don't think that 2 is bad. I do think that Twin Snakes feels very spin-offed. I don't know why.
Sure.
It just doesn't feel like it fits into the Metal Gear Solid gameplay line. We're going to do a whole deep dive into Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear.
Yeah.
We're gonna run through all the games, and we might even bring in a special guest to talk with us about that. But I don't know. I really liked playing this game. I played it over and over, just like I played the original over and over. We had it on PlayStation 1 and then got this game. I remember binging both of them with John in my basement, like playing them back to back on purpose to see what was different. And like a lot of the cutscenes are embellished. They're very fun. You should play this game. If you've never played this game, but you've played Metal Gear Solid 1, you need to go play Twin Snakes. You have to. You owe it to David Hayter and Cam Clark.
Absolutely. I mean, you say that jokingly, but I agree. I think that's a part of gaming history. The kind of mystique and aura of those older games kind of gets lost on the next generation. But I absolutely think you're right. It's up there as one of the best game series of all time. And I think to skip over a game in that franchise because, you know, the main character is different or whatever, I think you're missing out on an excellent game.
I'm not going to waste any time talking about Pokemon Coliseum.
Yeah.
I could, and it's really awesome. This is actually the Pokemon Coliseum is the first time that they put a mainline game on a mainline console. They were regulated to the handhelds, which in my opinion are still mainline consoles. You're talking to me about handheld games. I could go on a run right now, but we're not gonna.
Well,
the marriage between the Game Boy Advance and the GameCube was strong. They were still they had the Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy, whatever, had the compatibility with the N64, and they did not put that down when they had the GameCube. And this was one of the many games that did that.
Yeah, I mean, you saying that kind of sparked my memory a little bit, and maybe I'm misremembering, but didn't Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles have that same feature where you could play through Game Boy games?
Oh boy, I had that next on the list, which
oh, look at that.
I'm literally making this list as we're going here because
we're reading each other's minds now.
Yeah, dude, this game was incredible. If you had even one other friend to play this with, and they had a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy SP, whatever you had, you could plug. It had a special controller cord that you could plug into the GameCube and then plug it into your handheld device. I mean, this is like the Switch prototype, bro. This is where it all began right here. Was this kind of functionality. You could play this game like that. The freaking Four Swords worked like this. You plugged your Game Boy into the GameCube, and you could then look down at your screen when you went into little rooms and stuff. And this game, I think it just had like menus and stuff on it. I don't think you ever really looked down on it for functionality. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, of course, is a very fun game. I think they've remade it and put it back out. I don't know if this is a recommendation from me. Crystal Chronicles was fun, but that was I don't know. Maybe I need to go back and play it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the value of the game is dependent on whether or not you can play it with other people. If you're playing it by yourself, no, it's absolutely not a classic or something that you should try to seek out and find and play again. But if you've got 3 other people that you can play with consistently, oh boy, I mean, there's a ton of fun to be had playing that. And like you said, I don't think the integration was insane by any means of having your Game Boy connected, but just having that as an option to control the character made it seem like you were blending worlds a little bit, the handheld world with the console. And Nintendo, yeah, they've always been good at this. You know, you brought it up with the Nintendo 64, having those packs that you could play Game Boy games on. I remember the Super Nintendo had the Game Boy, Super Game Boy or something like that. They've always been so good at that, of bringing the handheld world to the console generation and console ecosystem. And I love it. That's the more that you can be compatible with your other systems, perfect. 10 out of 10.
There was one other game that had that kind of functionality, which I think they're trying to echo it with the Switch 2 versions of Breath of the Wild. It was Wind Waker. You could plug in a Game Boy Advance, SP, whatever, into the second controller port, and you would get access to what they called the Tingle Tuner, and you could use that to help you find Triforce pieces and do many other things. So I think it's really kind of interesting that they're doing a callback to that, and then also having the GameCube stuff start to come out with Switch 2. I think that's very interesting. GameCube was probably one of their more successful systems. I mean, N64 was very strong, but GameCube had so many good things going on it. There was one other thing I wanted to add to the Cam Clark reference. One of the coolest games that was on the GameCube, at least for me and my friend John, and I would be remiss not to mention it, is Robotech Battle Cry. Cam Clark did a voice in this game. This game is incredible. It's basically very similar to Star Fox games. It's a fighter jet shooter game where you can fly around and fight. And at some stages you go down like on rails and shoot stuff. And some stages you enter kind of an all range mode where you got to fly around and kill guys. Set in the Robotech universe. If you've never watched Robotech, well,
that's a different problem.
You should probably go watch Robotech. If you are any kind of a fan of Gundam, you will probably enjoy Robotech. It's got a lot of controversy around as far as the time period was also really bad for this as far as like translations go and continuity and things like that. I'm not here to tell you all that stuff. But you should watch Robotech if you've never seen it and you like Gundam. That's probably my one honorable mention. Do you have any honorable mentions you want to tag in here on the end? We're kind of reaching our time here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're barely scraping the surface of good GameCube games, but I think something that needs to be mentioned is a series that I want to say started on the GameCube and then kind of got ported over to other systems. But we have to talk about Beautiful Joe. Just the art style and the control and the superpowers, being able to control time. That was an incredible game. I remember being completely enthralled with that game and it being so fun.
Beautiful Joe was fucking awesome. Well, I thought that was like a PlayStation exclusive. Did it get moved over to the GameCube? Like, what happened with that? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't remember. This is kind of a weird period in gaming. Like you said, this is around the time when Sega kind of folded under and they were trying to reallocate their resources. And I kind of want to say that Nintendo did the same thing to a lesser extent, where they were selling stuff to other companies. Because like I think Beautiful Joe, like Okami, I want to say, did the same thing, made the jump over. I want to say there was a handful of games that did that, where they either started on the GameCube and then went to the PlayStation, or they jumped from the PlayStation to the GameCube. I can't remember.
I mean, real quick, I gotta say, Okami was an incredible game. I mean, you liked the original, like Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. If you've not played, you're looking for more. Okami's it. It's it. it does everything that Zelda does, and it is an incredible game. Visually stunning. There were so many visually stunning games. We had all this like cell shading and stuff had really come out, and everybody was using it, and it was really awesome. Beginning of the GameCube life and PlayStation 2 and all that. All these games were set in like an oceanic theme to show off that like surface water, and I remember thinking how fucking awesome water looked in those games. But those are kind of my parting thoughts here. Maybe we'll continue this in another episode, but you got any other parting thoughts?
I don't think so. I think we, like you said, I could go either way. I think we could continue talking about the GameCube. We've obviously left off some huge hitters, but the GameCube is one of those games, kind of like when we talked about the PlayStation 2, where there's just so many obvious choices. It's hard to be like, oh yeah, right, I forgot about that one, because it's so obvious,
Definitely. Well, I guess we'll see you next time, folks.
Do you want to do a see ya real quick, just to try it out?
I get it. Well, you walk us out, and then I'll get to do it.
Well, this has been Hoosier Main podcast. I'm Anthony, and my co-host Jared. You got any parting thoughts there, Jared? You wanna say to the audience?
See ya.